Welcome back to the DNA Pest Control Podcast. We got a good one.
I'm excited.
Yeah.
Ever since New Year, we've come out with a lot of good content.
Yeah, I'm liking it. And for everyone out there, thanks for sending in questions.
Yes.
We do have some podcasts coming up with some of the guests, which is awesome. But it's just really good to have people throwing in questions, asking really about the business side of things or even the tech side of things. It's really cool. A lot of those questions I think would be answered if you listened from one to now, because we've covered so many different subjects.
Sure.
But if it hasn't been, and even if it has, send in the questions still, because I think it's really good information for any new listeners.
Yeah, I agree.
Or even if you've been listening for the past 3 years. Mm-hmm. I mean, I don't remember what I did exactly, 3 years ago. So
yeah,
it's good.
It's fine.
So thanks for sending that info in. Today is a good one. It's a fun one. Because of everything we've been going through, we went to Pest World in Boston.
Yep.
We ended up from there. I went to the Wildlife Expo. Just in a couple weeks, you're going to be going to the West Coast Rodent Academy.
That's right.
January, we hit really hard on goals. We talked about even how to essentially move up in a position, what you should be doing, what owners are looking for, what management's looking for in a technician.
Yep.
So there's a lot of stuff we talked about kind of leading up to this episode. And coming back from the Wildlife Expo, there was a big thing that I took away from it.
Yeah.
Right? And that big thing that I did take away is those guys know so much information about so many different things. Okay? They didn't know how to spray an ant or what chemicals to use. But they knew everything else. I mean, about construction of a home, airflow in an attic, insulation, the importance of every single vent that's popping off, on the attic. They understood that. And it was amazing to me to see that because it had everything to do with what we're doing.
Yeah.
Right? And so today we're talking about leveling up as a tech. So a lot of people do ask this question, or they have these doubts, or where do I find this information to be a better pest control technician? And I think in the past I kind of confused it, right? I put a lot of emphasis on understanding chemicals, understanding insects, understanding pest control.
Yeah.
And I never talked about outside of the industry. And I think that's the big one that people need to know.
Yeah.
Is we were talking about this before. Pest control is really the only industry I can think of that you can literally have someone who's in construction and working at a pest control company. He could be a contractor and working in a pest control company.
Sure.
And actually, I know companies that have that, and they have to, because they do termite work, they do dry rot, and they actually are replacing beams and walls and things like that in a home.
Yeah.
Which is nuts. We're a pest control company, though. But yet they have a construction division, right?
Exactly.
To build a home.
Yeah.
Essentially. So as a pest control tech, and to leveling up is really understand that your direction, where you can go as a pest control technician, is not just pest control. It can veer off in about 1,000 different ways.
Yeah, it's hard to understand for a lot of people.
I think so.
Yeah.
So I think so. If you're sitting in a truck, you're listening to this podcast and you think, man, I really hate running a route. Well, today's your lucky day.
Yeah.
You may not have to forever. You can start getting into so many different things.
Sure.
Right? Let's hit on some of those things that fall underneath the pest control still. And then I'll start branching out. I'll tell you everything that I think. Right? And I may be wrong on some of them. There may be licenses that people need to get, but guess what? You could still do it under pest control.
Yeah. Let's hear it.
Well, the first one, and the one that's so known, is becoming an entomologist.
Yeah.
So entomology is super important, especially identification. How do you identify those insects without that knowledge? You can't. So if you are looking more on the biology of insects and you like that, and that's pulling you that direction, becoming an entomologist is huge, and industries need you. There's companies that have entomologists on site. A lot of owners end up becoming entomologists because they need one.
Yeah.
Because they have to identify for their guys.
Because the value's there.
So then they ended up going, then they study it, and then they get it. Big chemical companies, even big distributors, they have an entomologist on site.
They have to.
Yeah. So entomology is a really cool one. That deals, I mean, that's actually in our industry and outside of our industry.
Definitely.
You have to have them. Going even more into our industry is rodents.
Yep.
Right? You know, that is even to wildlife. Okay, I went to the wildlife expo. Even to the wildlife operators, rodents aren't them. They don't, I mean, they take care of them, but rodents is not their class. They kind of push that back onto pest control.
Yeah.
You know, they're too small of a rodent. We don't really care. We're dealing with squirrels, skunks, raccoons, snakes, you know, bigger animals.
Yeah.
They're rodents to them are kind of like, nah, we need to know that info, but we don't really care. But you start getting into rodent exclusion. So if you're dealing with rodents, you're trapping for rodents, you're baiting for rodents. I hope you listened to the 2 episodes that we pulled out about, you know, how to essentially control rodents in a commercial setting and a residential setting. But the exclusion work is huge. You know, what are we excluding on a home for rodents? I mean, everything.
Literally everything. Yeah. I was going
You
to say,
know?
is that a trick question?
I mean, kind of. I mean, see if you know exactly. Hopefully you say the right answer. No, but it is everything, right? Yeah. You want to talk about a door. You know, there's people that come in and they'll install doors in massive construction settings, and that's what they do. They just are selling doors. They're setting up doors, metal doors, wooden doors. That literally fall under exclusion work. You're having a massive gap underneath the door in the cement. How are you going to fill that gap? Do you understand a door functionality?
Yeah.
Do you understand the products? Where can you get that stuff? If you don't, well, you're not going to be able to seal that door up properly.
Yeah.
You know, so there's so many different things, even just under rodents. Branching off onto rodents, we go into, which is actually good. I'll get at some of the other pest ones, but you go into them climbing a tree and getting on the roof. Well, guess what? You can become an arborist. Do you understand a tree and where to cut?
Sure.
You know, instead of just tearing it down, or do you want to, you know, contract somebody outside? But if you're doing a ton of rodent work, there's probably a really good position open.
Yeah.
For becoming an arborist and cutting trees down for your company. So you want to start to shift and mold and become better. This is really good information.
Sure.
You start to see this massive spike, and there's a team now of just rodent exclusion guys. You can create a massive amount of money for the company that you're at. And that could create a really, really good and stable position for you, because you just created something that they didn't have before.
Yeah.
And they had a contract out. Would you imagine if someone's like, hey, by the way, I have everything to be an arborist, you know, and you're like,
It's like done.
What?
Yeah.
Like, we don't have to contract this company out anymore. Nope. I just need the truck, the shredder. We're good to go. Some chainsaws. Let's go.
Yeah.
You know, it would be huge. You know, outside of that, you have roofing. You know, they climb up the tree, they get on the roof. What about all the gaps that are in the roof? Do you understand water and how it runs down a house?
Most people probably not.
Probably not. They'd probably install everything wrong. Do you understand the airflow inside of an attic and why covering up some of those vents are probably a bad thing?
Yeah.
Not a good thing. Yeah, right? So all these little things that kind of all lead back into, and this is just rodents we're talking about. We haven't even touched any of the other insects yet.
Just rodents, yeah.
Right? This is literally just rodents.
Yeah.
And we're talking about the roof, the attic, the insulation. Do you understand allergies and how they work? Do you understand the airflow within the home?
Sure.
Where's that air getting pulled from?
Yeah.
You know, these are all massive selling points as well. You know, it's not even just understanding it, but it's now walking into a home and saying, did you know that you breathe 80% of the air, you know, from your attic into your home?
Like now I do.
Yeah, right. Now, and I don't know if that's true.
Well, I get it. Yeah.
Don't quote me on that, guys. Okay, don't go say that to people. And watch, someone's still going to say something stupid like that to a customer. But no, but that's what it is. It's like understanding that it's so crucial.
Yeah.
On every level. I mean, even for you as a sales guy, And salesmen need to know this.
Yeah. And when you were talking about all the different options and trades there are, like my mind is immediately going to sales, right? Like if I'm talking to a customer, you know, we talked about my first rodent estimate on a home versus if I went to one today, it's a completely different approach and what I'm looking at and how I'm talking to the customer, educating them. And it's like you can add so much value to yourself and to your company and really, really open those positions up with just educating yourself more.
Yeah.
And that's how simple it is. I know it sounds simple, but it is simple.
Yeah. Well, and it can be, you know, a lot of this stuff could even be something that you enjoy. It's a hobby. And then you never realize that could connect in so many different ways.
Right.
Drones. I mean, how helpful has that been, you know, just for the past week that we've had it? It's been huge.
Yeah, on all of our commercial, even residential ones as well.
And how many people have drones and play with drones on a weekly basis? Every weekend they're flying those things around. You know, so even a hobby that you may say that doesn't have anything and that doesn't correlate, it may not, but something may actually be there. You know, you talk about wildlife. If you jump into the wildlife industry, you have they have shooting courses and things like that. So if you are actually shooting, you have so much stuff you can get into. So if you love guns, dude, that's a great thing to get into.
There's a spot for you.
Yeah, and you are literally doing something that you would want to do on the weekend. You're just doing it every day and getting paid for it.
Right.
It's insane. It's absolutely crazy, but that's what this industry is. You know, we talk about landscaping. You start doing moles, voles, mice, rats. Everything has to do with landscaping.
Yeah.
You know, is it more inviting? Do you have a lot of fruit plants, vegetables, everything like that? You know, you get into even with insects with landscaping. You know, are you making your environment better for the insects to come? You know, we have a lady who keeps having issues with different types of animals, and she always has ants on her property, but she brings in organic mulch.
Yeah.
You know, she doesn't understand what she's causing and what she's bringing and how she's inviting the insects.
Right.
Great for us, but terrible for the customer.
Yeah.
Because she is now inviting consistently on a high level all these insects and animals to her house.
See, another thing too is I don't want to cut you off, but like you explaining that to the customer versus somebody who doesn't really know what's going on, that adds so much more value to us as a company, right? It's like, imagine if she called in a different pest control company, they came out and they were like, she said, hey, I have ants in my backyard. And they're like, you know what? You're right. You have ants. We're going to spray them for you. Versus like you going in there and it's like, okay, well, why do we have ants? It's like, let's look around and see, what are you inviting in? Oh, you have organic mulch. No wonder you have ants. You see what I mean? So not only the customer understands, but we understand on a certain level. That way there's none of that like repeated callbacks and frustration. It just works so much better when we're up to that level.
Yeah, it is. And that's exactly what we're talking about when it's leveling up as a tech is, do you understand those things?
Yeah.
You walk onto a property and you're like, we're spraying super heavy today.
Customer's like, cool, sounds great.
Yeah, that must work. They're going to go heavy. They're going to go like really heavy product.
Yeah.
It doesn't work that way. You know, this house, this lady, she has ants on her property on a consistent level. Every time I've been out there. I've even sprayed one time because I saw the ants and I was there for a completely different job. And I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to spray for the ants because there's a massive trail. And so I went in and I treated for the ants. And then we're back out there 2 weeks later anyway, and there's still ants everywhere. You know, but it's the environment, it's the landscaping, it's understanding that. And you're absolutely correct, right? You look at a competitor, and even some guys out there, you just started your pest control company, and you may have thought you known it all, right? You're the best guy out there. You were the best tech. You can do it better than the company that you're working for.
Yep.
And now you're getting into these situations and you're saying, damn it, I don't know anything. You're like, oh shit.
Yeah.
You know, I just got into a situation where I'm going to be wrong on all levels, or I'm doing it wrong, or the problem's not going away. That's huge, you know, and that's the lack of knowledge that a lot of guys have.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of people out there, they do not understand understanding other things outside of just an ant and how it functions could eliminate a massive amount of problems in the future. You know, because that you get rid of the organic mulch, you now replace it with rocks or whatever it is, right? You change that up. You just now uninvited the ants. They're going to want to go to a neighbor's house instead of your home.
Perfect.
You know, because even if we spray 1,000 times on our house, the ants are never going to go away.
Yeah.
They're always going to be there. So, and those are just a few, you know, going into bed bugs, you go into cockroaches. Do you understand kitchens? You know, you go into an apartment complex. Do you understand the piping and how they're running the pipes through the walls?
Good point. Good point. Like on these inspections we're doing, it's like, do you understand like how like apartments and those multi-family like buildings are like constructed? It's like, do you know where those kitchens match up? Do you know where you should inspect? It's like a whole different conversation.
Yeah, it is. And it's, where are you inspecting now? Because you walk into a building and it's a single structure. Okay. You know, that's going to be different than if I walk into a multifamily home and it's apartment complex and the building has 12 units.
Way different.
That inspection is going to look different than just a regular house or a regular office building,
True.
Right? So it's understanding how those things are built. You know, what is the material of the wall leading into the home? Is it stucco? Is it brick? Do you know if there's a gap in between that brick and the wall? You know, how long ago was that house built? That's stucco. You understand that there's a weep. You know, they have to have weeping holes all the way around the base of the stucco. You know, why is that? Because stucco needs to breathe.
Yeah.
It does get wet. It does hold moisture. You know, so there is something that they're doing that they have to do to protect the home from mold and things like that. And then we go grab a spray can, a foam, and foam up the bottom of it. And we essentially just cut off all of, you know, the airflow between that stucco and the home. And you just create a massive mold issue.
The house is done.
You just ruined their home. Good job, right?
Yeah.
But it's understanding that.
Yeah.
And walking into that situation. And you may say, well, if I did it right, it would cost thousands of dollars. Exactly. That's the whole idea. Make more money.
That's the point.
Yeah, that as you start to gain more knowledge, the world naturally pays you more money. As you learn, you become better. You're providing more for society.
Yeah.
Society looks at you as a more valuable person.
Sure.
You know, that's why it doesn't matter. This is going to be really harsh, but it doesn't matter if people die who've done nothing in their life.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't change the world itself. Even in our industry, I look at our industry, and I was at the Wildlife Expo talking to these guys about it, but it's our industry is so massive and it's so old, but it's so new at the same time because we haven't stepped into really anything. We haven't expanded. We haven't as a whole group provided more and better information. And you see this across some industries that are really easy to get into.
Sure.
Because you get a lot of idiots, unfortunately, that become a technician. They lower the pricing and they screw everybody by doing so. And then everybody has to start becoming more competitive.
Yeah.
And then it lowers the standard of technicians you can hire because you can't hire a really high caliber tech when your services are $20.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, I didn't even think about that.
No, you got to hire a junkie. You got to hire somebody that really just needs a couple bucks and they're happy and they can live off of it.
Sure.
You can't hire higher quality people, you know, but that's where you do see that difference in those higher quality companies. They've expanded and they've created so much underneath them. They're doing the construction work. They're doing the roofing. They're doing the insulation.
Yeah.
Why are these big companies doing insulation? Because they have to understand insulation to take care of a rodent situation properly.
Yep.
And then what do they end up doing? Well, I already know everything about it. Why don't I just do it?
Exactly.
Makes perfect sense. You're already in there.
Yeah.
You're already setting up traps. You're already sanitizing. Just get it done. You know, so now, you know, they're stepping into that. But that is so important here.
Sure.
That's how you level up as a company. That's how you level up as a tech. So everybody who's listening, small, big, wherever you are in any stage, start to look at what you really want to get into.
Yeah.
And you're going to start seeing all these dots connect. And it is literally going to tell you what you need to go for next.
Yeah.
You start getting into the rat industry. Perfect. It is now literally telling us you need to start looking at insulation and soon, because that is just a massive added service.
Yeah.
You know, I I think we hit. Can you think of anything else? I think I kind of hit everything I wanted to, that ties into pest control. And I may have not hit everything.
No, I think you hit all of the obvious and not obvious ones.
Okay.
Yeah. I think.
Kind of going from that is where to get that knowledge.
Yeah.
Right. So you're a technician. You don't know what to get, where to go, what to do, anything like that. There's so many different things. We've talked about it. I had a whole episode that was literally focused on knowledge and where to find it. It was only specific for pest control. But going off of that, look at what wildlife brought, right?
Sure.
You go to the Wildlife Expo, all the classes, what that brought was actually outside of pest control.
Yeah.
A lot of the classes were metalwork. A lot of the classes were understanding the airflow in a home, understanding insulation, understanding that stuff, understanding the attic and the functionality of an attic. That had nothing to do with pest control other than it had everything to do with rats and how to control it in a proper way, right? And what you should and shouldn't do in some situations and why those air vents are important. So going to the Wildlife Expo, super important, gaining that knowledge. Going to Pest World, that's going to cover everything from the business side to the pest control side, to the technician side, to safety.
Sure.
They have a safety summit coming up in May. Boom. You have somebody who's over safety or a manager or, you have an operator if you're in California and he's running the office. He should probably be going to this.
Yes, you should.
That's a really important thing. West Coast Rodent Academy.
Yep.
That's huge. Even if you want to go to an expo that is closer to home, there's so many that you could get into that could teach you so many different things. I know they do a massive wildlife expo outside of NPMA.
Sure.
And they have hunting cameras. They have all the gear you could think of, different flashlights, different tracking methods. There's so much stuff out there that we haven't even brought into our industry. You go to a gun show. I mean, they're going to have tracking cameras. They're going to have all of that stuff as well.
Sure.
Are you going to those things?
Yeah.
Or you could be from California and you could say, well, I'm scared of guns. Guns are scary.
Yeah.
But those are things that you need to know. Even if it is a scary thing, right? Step out. You got to learn this stuff because in those expos and those situations to learn, you start to understand more.
Sure.
And as you understand more, you become better. And you'll start to look at insects, you'll look at animals, you're going to look at everything in a different light.
Yeah.
And so without that knowledge, you'll never know that stuff. I go into the wildlife and luckily I've studied a lot of this stuff and I've learned so much about the wildlife industry anyway, but they were talking about some stuff from pest control and these guys knew nothing about the pest control world.
Yeah.
They're talking about danger warning products and they're like, yeah, if you guys need to use this powder. And I'm like, guys, read the label because that warning danger label is completely different than all the other labels.
Yes.
You think your little blue rubber gloves are going to be okay with that warning danger label?
It's going to eat it alive.
Think again. You need a respirator. You probably need a full mask respirator, or you're going to need an enclosed air system using that product. Don't teach all these guys that they can use this product that's going to kill them. Like they literally have to have a shower station on their truck if they're going to use those products. And I'm not even kidding about that.
Yeah.
That is literally, or it has to be on site. That's how crazy it is.
Wow.
So these guys are talking about these products and it's like, don't talk about those products. None of you know chemicals.
Yeah.
You guys know how to shoot a bird or how to trap birds, but you have no idea what you're getting into on the chemical side.
Right.
So it's so important to start looking and expanding. All the wildlife guys, they should be going to Pest World.
Yeah.
They should be learning everything about chemicals and the chemical makeup, especially if they start getting into rodenticides and using some of these powders.
Sure.
It's like, you guys don't know that. Don't get into it. But that's what we're talking about, right? It's stepping into those expos, stepping into that knowledge base, listening to the DNA Pest Control Podcast, another great one. Yeah, it's a big one. Yeah. Do you have any other ones? I mean, I think I covered those ones, but you're coming from outside this industry.
Yeah, and I was actually going to hit on that. And that's a good point. Like for me, for those of you who remember the story, I got hired on just to run the office, and I have a huge sales background, so I wanted to get into sales. So I ended up, studying the material, taking my test, got my branch 2 license, to spray. And then now I'm going like crawling in attics and doing things I never thought I would be doing, but it's so valuable. And on the sales side too, you made a good point earlier. And I think it's like people should take advantage of what piques their curiosity, right? Because it's something that you already enjoy doing. Like for me, I really like behavioral science, like the psychology of sales. Yeah. Right. So even today, doesn't have to be like at a huge event or expo. It's like, there's YouTube videos, there's things online, there's people you can talk to, but it's like, now I'm getting into like the body language and tone and like key words that people say. And, when you say a certain thing and their body language does this, and it's like, that fascinates me. And it makes me such a better salesperson at the end of the day. Whereas like the next salesperson who's going to show up is basically reading a script, right? And for me, I'm approaching it from a whole different perspective. I'm like, how was the conversation on the phone before this? What are some things that were said? What, you know what I mean? Yep. There's a lot of things that you can add to that.
Oh yeah. And even that's what I did when I was a salesman. It was looking into those areas. It was looking into the body language. It was really studying all that stuff, because it helps you so much when you sit down and you're looking at a person. Sure. And how they're reacting to you and what you're saying, you can change what you say. Yeah. You can hurry and switch subjects. And it's so valuable. Yeah. So that information alone on the sales side, even as a technician, learning the sales side. Well, I'm not a salesman. You don't have to be. Yeah. That's not what I'm telling you to be. I'm not a roofer either. I'm not an attic specialist.
But it ties in.
But it has everything to do with that. Your level of communication with a customer, and nothing about sales. Yeah. How are you going to be able to have that conversation? You're going to be terrified. Or you're going to be like a doctor who's like, you have cancer, you're going to die in 3 weeks. Oh, thanks, doctor. Yeah. That was really helpful.
Seriously. Or on that point, it's like when a customer recommends a treatment, you know that it's wrong. It's like, how do you effectively educate the customer so that way you're not putting them down and telling them, hey, here's why I'm doing it this way, and it's going to work because of this, right? Those communication skills.
Yeah. Yeah. So there is so many things to look at that as a pest control, right? And I guess that would be another little branch off of pest control is understanding sales, understanding communication. And that's another great one, because in our industry, we have so many different ways to take care of one single thing that another tech could say, this is the way. Good point. And then the customer says, that's the only way. And then you come in and do it a different way. And the customer says, well, Joe did it this way and you're doing it wrong. How do you handle that situation? How are you going to communicate with that customer? Yeah. And let them know, ma'am, we have about 1,000 different products.
Yeah. They all work.
And they all work, right? And it's just knowing what one works best for you or what has worked best in the past. Sure. This method works really good for me and I know it really well. I don't know Joe's method. Yeah. So that's the idea behind it is you're learning and you're pulling in all that knowledge and it's just helping you out to become better.
That's a good point too. Overcoming those callbacks and overcoming those customers. It's like you lady has ants you were talking about. She comes out, she's like, why didn't you spray them all away? It's like the last guy came and just basically hosed down my entire backyard where the ants were. And it's like, that's actually not how you're supposed to treat them with a trail. You know what I mean? Just like educating them.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and some people do illegal things. How do you let that customer know that's illegal? Yeah. Without it looking like you're trying to tear down that company. Because a lot of people, when they start talking crap about another company, that's an instant red flag.
It's off-putting, yeah.
Especially for me. If they're like, oh, that person sucks or that company is, this and that. And it's like, okay, look, dude, I'm not picking your side because I know you guys are competitors. Why would I pick your side? So you never, and I have always tried it where I'm like, look, people even talk so much crap on their company. We just had it yesterday with the guy that we're talking to about apartments. He started going off on those guys. And, and I'm just like, well, you probably just have a bad tech. Yeah. Usually I just blame it on the tech. I don't want to put the company down. obviously they're doing something right. They've been around for 40 years, 50 years.
Sure.
You know, and even then that does not mean that they're doing it right. Could be they're doing everything wrong.
Yeah.
But, you know, but it is that. It's understanding that is how do I say that they suck without saying that company sucks and I'm jealous of them? How do you do that?
Yeah.
Sales is perfect. You know, understanding those sales skills. But using YouTube. The other big one before we come to a close that I want to throw out there is, and the wildlife hit on it too, is there's so many different forums that you can join. There's Facebook groups that you can join. And there's so many people in that, even in the pest control industry. If you take a picture of something, throw it up into that group chat or whatever, they're going to have so many people putting in answers and helping you literally take control of that situation. And the great thing is, if you have 100 people comment on that picture, you have 100 different ways, or they'll start debating each other in that chat, in those comments, which is great because now it's going to get you to the correct answer faster.
Everybody wins.
Everybody wins, you know, or contact the distributor, contact the actual chemical company that makes the products. They have sales reps that have to understand how the chemical functions.
Sure.
Call them, you know? So there's so many things out there. I just threw out a ton of extra ones, you know, to learn and find out. Even if you call your local roofing company, I'm sure someone would be like, what? You're in pest control? I'd love to tell you how a roof works.
Yeah.
You're not a competitor in their eyes.
Exactly.
So they're going to sit down with you for hours and explain how a roof works in different shingles.
Sure.
They would love that. So expand your knowledge, guys. Really crack down and start to learn new things. You started your own company. You're the owner of a company. You're managing guys. This is crucial. Start to learn more about everything that we're touching on a home, on a business in general, and your knowledge is going to shoot through the roof, and you're going to start taking care of things in a whole different way.
Yeah.
And you're going to see the success really start to roll in from that. If anyone has any questions or they want to reach out to us directly about some of the places where we go and actually find that information, send a message on Instagram, email us.
Please.
All the information is actually tagged. I won't say it because I don't have to say it every time, but it's actually tagged in every single episode. There's a list of Instagram, the email, or you can even go onto the website and you can get, you know, you can essentially send us a question directly through there. So let us know and keep the questions coming. And if you want to be a guest, let us know. We'd love to talk to you guys.
Oh, yeah.
It's always fun to talk to other technicians, especially in other countries, other states, and really finding out what you guys do and how you guys do it out there.
Yeah.
It's really cool. So send us a message.
Yeah, we'd love to hear from you.
Yeah, let us know. Thanks for listening to the DNA Pest Control Podcast.